we go now. Batman scoop on the mic, mix in the mix on the wheels of steel. This is what I was fucking born to do. Let's go.
Don't worry about Blur. Blur has replicated back and has gone the other way around.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is another bit of action here. This is week 3 of the Raving Mad Gamers Overwatch Last Men Standing tournament. I'm Ultraism, and joining me is my favorite co-caster, Sun Phoenix.
Nice. You got some EU experience now as well. So the more you call me that, the more people I'm ahead of. So you make me feel good about myself. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see some sort of mid to low table action. We got our full of top end action last week, so we're kind of oscillating between the top and the middle/bottom. So I'm excited to get a different taste of Overwatch this week.
I must admit, is you can always go for that super hype action to see where the top players are at, but it's also nice to see who's catching up to them, who's working their way up the table, you know, someone who's maybe a new team but showing a lot of potential or something like that and has some tweaks to fix. And, you know, considering this is week 3, middle of the table doesn't necessarily mean doesn't have an opportunity to go up. And considering we got the 2 teams tonight are RMG Legion, a team who has been around for a while, versus Pangolins, they are a team we've never seen before. And so what are these guys capable of, especially considering there are some names in there, we're going to go through them in a second, but there are some names in there that we definitely recognize.
Yeah, Pangolins, an interesting team. I think both these teams are interesting. Pangolins, of course, a new team, as you mentioned now. But filled with lots of old players, a couple of new players as well. So seeing how they slot in, we don't have a good sense of how they square up to some of the other teams. RMG, on the other hand, we've got a bit of a better sense of. We, of course, saw them last week going up against Atomic Phoenix. Myself and Defect covered that. Not a close match by any stretch of the imagination, but RMG came out looking a lot more polished than the first time we saw them, which I think was against Valiant in the middle of last year, where they were like a brand new team, still making the same kind of mistakes we saw Atomic Phoenix making, still getting to grips with what it is to be a competitive team in Overwatch in South Africa. So they look very different here. Of course, they've got a full-time coach, or as full-time as you can be in South African Overwatch, in the form of Terran Lord. Happy birthday, Mr. Terran Lord, by the way. And he's been working with his team, and you can see the difference he's been making. And I think what we're waiting to see from RMG is what is their cap? What team are they going to come up against that they can't beat? And what we're waiting to see from Pangolins is really anything. Where do they stack up? This team is a lot of former Calypso members, I want to say, and that team was kind of, you know, somewhere in the lower third, maybe just pushing into the second tier of teams. So it's going to be interesting to see where this new Pangolins roster kind of fits in.
That's why it's nice to get to see them on stream now. It's just, I think a lot of teams are now trying to figure out where they are in relation to a lot of the teams who have been around for a while. So RMG is a really nice benchmark for a lot of teams. Are we better than them? Are we going to end up higher up on the table? And for Pangolins, definitely that's going to be the game plan for tonight, is just prove that they can break into that top half of the table. RMG Legion obviously has a lot of experience behind them, is used to being able to learn from long-term mistakes, and hopefully they can put some stuff together. They have swapped up their roster a little bit. If we look at who is going to be playing here on RMG Legion, we have Yames and Aku going to be taking away your DPS, your tanking roles. We got Furious and the newcomer to the team, the new DPS player, Big Tuna. Well, new to this team, but certainly an experience in terms of South African Overwatch. And then your support lineup, your flex support, is going to be Hobo Parker and Lucky Z on that main support.
Yeah, I mean, so a few changes from the last time we saw this team against Atomic Phoenix. Some mostly role switches, Vixen out of the lineup, Lucky's moving from off-tank to support, where he's more comfortable. We actually had a chat to them afterwards, Defect and myself, get a kind of sense of where they are. And yeah, they were missing a player last time, so they had to sub in, mix their roles around. It still worked pretty well. But Big Tune is the big talking point of this team. For those of you not aware or can't remember, he was, of course, off-tank of Evo last year, our 5th place finishing team. So a strong player has moved to DPS. I think it's the role he prefers. But when you're going up against Jelly Doodle and whoever else is on that Evo squad, it's hard to find game time as a DPS, and he excelled as an off-tank as well. So a roster we've now got some familiarity with. The only other player I think that's important to keep an eye out is Furious. He really stood out in the game against Atomic Phoenix, clicking heads on that hit scan role. So excited to see how this, if we assume this is their more, this is the roles they prefer more, then they should perform even better. So I'm excited to see what they bring up.
Indeed, it's going to be up to Pangolins to see if they can hold on to that their lives against two of the top DPS here, or two very potent DPS, we could say. And Pangolins is going to be a little bit hard pressed. Coming in as their new additions, or their rather unknown players, are their two tanks. It is Duelist and Poached Egg there. We haven't seen them really. They have a lot of role to deal with now, and they've got a huge role to go against, being able to make sure their team stays alive and can take on Furious and Big Tuna, laying in damage from very potentially deadly angles. The rest of the team, though, no strangers to keeping themselves alive and no strangers to Overwatch. It is Babs, Hemisphere on your DPS combo, and then Apricornicus and Dragon Wolf coming through on your double supports.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Duelist and Poached Egg, new players, unless they're playing under different names. I know Poached Egg is a new player and is captain of the squad, so excited to see how these new tanks, it's a tough role to come in on, the tank role. But we're going to see how they do today. Babs, of course, we know very well from his time with various other teams. Been a bit of a team hopper in the past. Hopefully found himself a home here. Most recently was on Leiden last year, I think, where he was kind of subbing in on and off for that squad. So an experienced player in his own right, a young, explosive player. Excited to see how he grows throughout the scene here. Hemisphere, Apricornicus, and Dragon Wolf, I think we're all part of that Calypso squad. Although I always get that squad confused with another squad. So I believe that's the case. So a relative relative wealth of experience here on this team, with the exception of their two tanks. And then just to mention something about Reyes Legion, I wouldn't call them super experienced. They're still one of the new teams that have come out, and they're still learning and growing. So I think player-wise, it's actually Pangolins that have more experience, just between the four players who have played before. They've been playing for a year or more, whereas Reyes, does pretty much his whole squad, with the notable exception of Big Tuna, only really started playing in the middle of last year. So it is quite a lot of new players if you look in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I must admit, when you have a full season behind you, then you tend to be a more experienced player. And so, when you come in, that's a very fair point. I'll give you that much. The one name that I'm studying, you guys got to remember that I'm still learning the South African scene. Sun Phoenix has been here for an eternity. He is one of the founding members of it. So like when he talks about who's been here for a long time, he's talking years. And Big Tuna, how long does that fall into that category?
Good question, actually. I'm not 100% sure when Big Tuna joined. I know he was on EVO for at least the whole of last year. I'm pretty sure the year before that, 2019 Perseus, my producers were whispering in my ear. Yeah? So that would, 2019 was the year before last. So pretty experienced in the grand scheme of things. I think there was kind of a big flux of players around that time, where we had a lot of new players leaving, a lot of old players, not new players joining, sorry, a lot of old players leaving. And not that many people are still around from before then, actually.
The one name that is ringing a bell for me, and that I have got the pleasure of casting a couple of times, is Hemisphere, the DPS here for Pangolins. And Hemisphere, the picture there was the May, and that's the reason why I remember, is because Hemisphere has a very good knack of being able to put up walls in good places and isolate off players, which could come to it. We are going to be going into our first map. It is Ilios, so maybe not the exact right place for a May, but I mean, the chance of us not having King's Row tonight, come on. I mean, and if we do go to King's Row, then a May is a really good pick. And so Pangolins has some players who obviously have their own strategies, and they might be looking to, as a new team, exploit those. They're going, we don't have a set game plan, so what do you guys want to bring to the table? And they throw out some sort of strategy like that.
Well, we don't know if they don't have a set plan. They might come in as prepared as anyone. We'll have to wait and see. It's excitement of watching these new teams. Guys, we are a Twitch affiliate now. Kauza is. We have some channel predictions. If you want to get involved, who do you think is going to win Ilios? That is our first map, as you mentioned. Re-Ace, this way. Re-Ace versus Eagle Eye Academy Pangolins. My prediction, personally, if I can sort of nudge the voting here, is that it will be Re-Ace. I think the addition of Big Tuna to the squad makes it quite a heavy hitter when compared to how it was before, and we were actually quite impressed with how they played against Atomic Phoenix last week. So I'm excited to see how they do today.
It should be interesting to see. I think Ilios is a really nice open map, especially Ruins, something like this. It might not give away too much of their long-term strategy when we get to the hybrid maps or the escort maps, but I think it'll be a nice time for them to flex their mechanical skills and really warm up here. You've got people like a Tracer, Big Tuna there picking that up straight away, who can dart in amongst the Ruins and the different levels of ground there. You've got someone like James who's going to be leaping into the background, making sure that there's no snipers on the background. And if you look at the way Pangolins is running out here with something like a Hanzo and a Torbjorn, which I've seen a surprising amount of play on recently.
Yeah, Torbjorn's an interesting one here. You mentioned Hemisphere on the May, and that is one of the heroes associated with, but also associated with the Junkrats. We'll see if we see that later on here. We've got some very different looks out of these two teams. A much more aggressive composition, more mobile composition coming out of Pangolins here, whereas it's a lot more slow and stable on the side of Rias Legion. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two styles clashing to each other, but the tempo will be controlled here by Pangolins.
We see Big Tuna going to the back line, has to recall out, and Hemisphere doing a good job. Bubs, though, going to fall eventually. Big Tuna instantly into the back line, making havoc. Does get taken down by the turret, though, and the rest of Rias now being put under a lot of pressure. They don't have a big, solid front line that is able to run forward, and Pangolins able to hold steady and just now keep advancing.
Yeah, so far so good for Pangolins here, actually setting the pace, which is nice to see. Always worry about these newer teams, even with all the players, that they're just going to get dumpstered in their first team fight and struggle to find their feet after that. But this is a good start for Pangolins. Kind of just get the ball rolling here, take that first team fight, and now it's up to Rias Legion to figure out, find some chinks in the armor. But Babs, he found a chink of his own in the Rias Legion armor.
Indeed, and that's going to reset it. And so, especially when you're starting to look at these first team fights, that ult advantage that the defending or the winning team manages to pick up. When you can then get another pick and then keep up that poke damage, you just exploit that lead faster. If you look at Duelist, he's up to 90% on an Earth Shatter, and no one from the other side is even close, and they don't have a giant shield to try and hide behind.
Yeah.
It may be difficult for Rias to push into this.
Yeah, they're going to struggle here, but all it takes is one or two people out of position to pick things up. But I mean, look at this altruism. It's all Pangolins here.
Man, that was quick. They realized they just got pinched into a tiny little corner, and they didn't even use that many ults. I mean, they dropped the Baptiste wall sideways. Very interesting play. We'll see how that one panned out, but they didn't need it. They just flattened Rias straight away.
Yeah, no, totally fine. And you're not that worried about losing out on a window here, especially when you've got so many ultis in the bank still to come here. On the other side, though, there's pretty much nothing to play with. James, did he use his ulti there? Did he switch it up? Oh, he was the Winston, right? So they've decided to go for a more matching composition, and I like this pick, these picks out of Rias here.
As well, getting that shield up, but the Molten Core just cleaves through the back line. Man, that's a huge play from Hemisphere, managing to wrap around them and just pin them in that tiny corridor. There's just Rias has got no space.
Well, oh my god, with 95 seconds of the clock, they're probably not even going to make it back to point here. I don't see anyone in position to get that touch here. So it is going to be Pangolins taking this first map. And Altruism, I think that was just a case of they picked the wrong roster coming out of the gate. They lost that first team fight on the side of Rias Legion, and they never really looked like they were going to take the fight to Pangolins. Pangolins did a great job just controlling the space, controlling the various chokes that they needed to, and well-timed picks from Babs bought them a little bit of extra time. And then, of course, just good teamwork to pick up the kills they needed to, and win those team fights out super duper swiftly. We didn't see a single ultimate come out of the Rias Legion there. They just never had a chance to take any proper team fights.
100%. Besides that Baptiste ultimate, but I don't think we can really count that window as an actual ultimate committed. 100%. Pangolins from the beginning looked stable. They had a very stable team comp. Now going for a much more mobile team comp with the Diva and the Wrecking Ball, and even the Echo and the Tracer, going to make sure that everyone can stay very far away from Rias if they need to.
Oh, taking a shot there. You should be careful not to get taken down. Yeah, I like this. It fits the map well. It's good to see this team picking to fit the map, and hopefully it reflects well on their play style. But that's a much better start now for EA, picking up what feels like their first kill of the match.
basically mirroring the team comps, and so they're able to move around just as fast as Pangolins can, and now they managed to pin them in a bit of a corner. Furious going to have to flee to the skies, nearly goes down there, but it has dragged some attention away. The rest of RMG going to be able to come in, but Pangolins again regrouping, just staying together, fighting, using their mobility to just make sure that they don't get picked off on their own, and managed to take this team fight quite handily.
Yeah, first fight once again going the way of Pangolins, and you know how important it is in this game mode in Control. Winning this first time sets you up, and we saw it play out in a way that was so obvious. I've never seen that obvious before. We just have such a huge ult advantage over the opposing team, and you can just leverage that into consistent team fight wins. This one wasn't so one-sided though. They're coming in to this fight Reace with something to play with. That's a good start. Tuna gets that kill onto Hemisphere.
That is the furthest extent of that flashbang that he managed to get there, and then follows it up on the Lucio, taking out the two most elusive heroes instantly, and then manages to get the pick on the Echo at the end. No, Furious manages to get to cover. Does get the replicate off now. It's going to, in fact, be Babs taking the replicate, manages to get up the Diva, going to be able to put this onto it, and using the mobility to get it as close to the point as possible. Going to have to boot himself out. Furious nearly taking that bomb to the face. Rie still not managing to turn this in their possession. So the clock keeps ticking up. Finally, Reyes managed to get some picks. The beat's committed solo, basically. Just him in the wrecking ball now. Tracer's managed to rejoin the fight. Hemisphere going to be able to get the pulse bomb onto the back of the Zenyatta. And Reyes still not managing, finally managing to turn the points. But they're basically dead.
Oh, losing this team fight out here. That's the kind of beat where you just know somebody in comms was going winnable, and then he commits the beat. And whoever was making that call, whether it was Apricornicus himself or somebody else in the team, I think it looks like the right one here. As long as they can clean up these kills and flip the point back, 20% lost is not really that huge of a deal.
Somehow we're still seeing Reyes managing to trickle this out. They did commit the Lucio, but he's eventually going to get back. So 25%, still not bad for Pangolins, but a nice bit of life for Reyes Legion. Yeah,
they'll have to hold on to that life here, but they're coming into some ultis now. They've got some tempo of their own to play with, and they've mulled a bit of the ultis out here. Lucky's going down, though, is not a good way to start this team fight.
We see Aku does have this. Oh, the Deadeye from the side. We hear that going. Big Tuna doing so much work on this and manages to reinforce the team now. Great positional play. And the bomb committed and the trance. Okay.
Well, it's a free bomb at least. She's not actually a diva, so she gets that one up pretty quick. Would you like to see that used more effective? But Reyes finally winning this team fight back.
But they do trickle it out a little bit. So Pangolins on one fight territory, of course, they're going to have a bit of time, and they're coming through with both of their tank ults and a Valkyrie, very close to that replicate as well. So Pangolins coming into this next one, maybe Reyes would have wanted to keep on to that Transcendence.
Yeah, I agree, especially coming in with only the 2 tank ultimates. That can buy you a lot of time, allow people like Big Shooter to build up his ultimate and your supports as well. But this aggressive play, nobody's noticed him. Yaves in the back line here trying to make a nuisance of himself.
He played that so calmly. He didn't even slam into them, didn't even give away his position. He just decided to wait there. We do see the bomb going in through the back line. It's a naked bomb, but it still picks up the Mercy, managing to do well. Now it's going to be backed up by the bombs from the Wrecking Ball on the point as well. Just bombs everywhere for these two teams, and managing to pick up that kill. We say Pangolins actually on the wrong side from their spawn, trying to go through, and the beat gets shut down mid-air. That is a huge play. The boop coming through to finish it off by Lucky's. And we do see Pangolins now trying to drop the replicate. They've got a Diva up with a bit of a Mercy pocket, and going to be able to maybe get up that bomber. Here it gets thrown into the back lines. It's not going to actually find anyone though, and so Reyes still managing to hold position of this point. Pangolins holding on for the desperate attempts. They're not going to want to back out just yet. The flashbang comes out. Big Tuna's got to get the kills, not managing to do it, and now getting harassed as well by the Tracer on the back line. Meanwhile, on the point, we see that it is still dwindling numbers of Pangolins players, and so if Big Tuna can make it happen here, gets the flashbang, but doesn't manage to finish it off there. So still a little bit of a trickle coming out from Pangolins.
Yeah, still trickle. But Big Tuna goes down. He's a big part of helping this team force themselves through this map, but they've still got some numbers on the point here. They're still going to clean things up. Furious going to drop, though. That's a problem. Babs now has free reign of the skies here once his Mercy rejoins him. Aku going to go down as well, so Reyes Legend struggling. The Trance comes in here, and that might hold him up, but this looks bad. Oh, no!
Oh, he didn't manage to use his pile driver to get out, and instead Pangolin's going to be looking for this. Remember, whoever takes this team fight is going to win this. Big Tuna, the last one left alive with this Tracer. His Lucio going to fall very quickly, and so Tracer on dwindling HP. Pangolin's going to be able to take it. Overtime has ticked up because of the Echo, but the Diva now trying desperately just to get back to point isn't able to touch. It is going to be Pangolin taking this 2-0.
That boop from Apricornicus right at the end there to force him off the board, get the switch and get the win. I'm impressed with this Pangolin squad. Fights have been a bit scrappy on Wild, especially kind of long drawn out affairs when compared especially to this map. Ruins, they really dominated. I mean, really nice work from Pangolins here, holding that one choke, coming around from the side and just forcing the back hemisphere with the 4K. Nice work from him. Torbjorn, not the world's most common hero, but as you mentioned, we have been seeing it a little bit more on these control maps. So I'm super impressed with Pangolins. I think I'm excited for what we're going to see through the rest of the series, though, because ReACE is here. ReACE is showing up. ReACE has potential to fight back. Looks more to me like they needed a bit of time to warm up Altruism, and I'm keen to see if that's how things are going to pan out.
Interested. If you notice the two different, very distinct compositions that we had on the first map versus the second, we had a much more static Reinhardt-based map where Pangolins just leveraged that advantage of the shield to walk forwards the whole way through, survive everything that tried to flank them, and then push everyone from ReACE off the point and then never let them back in. The second one was a much more scrappy fight where we had balls and echoes and everyone flying around, divas dropping in from random places. It was a lot more chaotic, and I think Big Tuna was able to leverage that chaos a little bit more when he had not more space, but less pressure in his face. So kind of the definition of space. But, you know, he was surrounded by enemies, but they weren't directly in his face kind of thing.
True.
Then he was able to get the pickoffs on something like a Tracer. But it's going to be interesting. ReACE definitely shows that they can take fights. They've got their own strategies. They know how to flank. There's good communication, winnable fights, and then they drag it out. Pangolins, though, looking very strong when they work together.
Yeah, and so I'm excited to see now on a map that isn't a bit more chaotic and brawly. We will be moving to Rialto here. I'm excited to see if we see more of the same out of Pangolins, that just stalwart style we saw in Ruins, where they could just control the choke points and really just stop ReACE Legion from finding any angles to get in there. They are relying quite heavily on Big Tuna as a heavy puncher. And so I'm worried that if Pango shut down ReACE Legion's main DPS there in Big Tuna, that it's going to be difficult for ReACE to find a way to punch through Pangolins. So I think that for me is going to be a key going to this next series. Can Pangolins deal with Big Tuna, or can Big Tuna find that space, or can his team make that space for him to start clicking heads? Something interesting to know is that in our previous match, it was Furious on that hit scan role. He was playing that McCree for the most part, if memory serves. So he's kind of having to shift out of that role to make space for Big Tuna. And I wonder if that's affecting the dynamic a little bit. But we're going to have to wait and see. We haven't had much of a chance to see much of anything here. It's only really been one very chaotic map. So let's see in this more set style what these two teams are actually going to bring out.
It comes down to what.
Oh, lost Altruism here. Is that just me? Okay, so it is. Altruism has just dropped down briefly here. Looking at the two rosters, though, we do see a more static composition coming out of the defensive side here. That is ReACE Legion. Altruism, have you returned to us?
I should be here.
Welcome.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm very interested to see where we go with these lineups in terms of what the teams want to do. We see Pangolins, they're looking for a couple of angles. They're going to get Bubs into the air, going to rain down some rockets and try and off-seat ReACE Legion. ReACE looking for a much more static lineup when you've got a Reinhardt, a double shield Sigma, and you've got your May wall to be able to give yourself some space. And so Pangolin's just going to have to try and find the angles, and Legion, I think, figure out how to cover all these different approach points.
Yeah, this is quite a stable composition on this map that Pango are running, especially with the Pharaoh. I haven't seen it that much recently. Teams favoring the hit scan and the May more commonly on this map, but I like this. It gives them a lot of space to work. They can set up a nice crossfire and allow Duelist to get nice and aggressive on the front line.
It's great for them to leverage that Winston's ability to then time those attacks, realize when the team's got an advantage because they've got a bit of Ashe damage coming in there. Also, Pharaoh raining in from the back and putting pressure on the back line. And it's going to be up to Julius to then maneuver that front line. Now he's going on the aggressive, giving some extra space now. Hemisphere going to be able to click away with the Ashe here on stream. And we do see ReAce not really being able to dictate where they want to fight.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned Babs much this series, but he's actually one of the strongest, if not the strongest player on Pangolins. He hasn't really been popping off because their team player has been actually very good, so hasn't really given an opportunity. But there we go. Big Shooter finds an opening pick onto Hemisphere, finds a second onto Babs as well, really taking matters into his own hands.
Man, when you're going, no, I'm the DPS here, just managing to take out both of your oppositions in a matter of seconds, and then the rest of Pangolins has to start running. Thankfully, they've got enough HP to survive the long shots from Ashe, but Big Tuna has basically built up to that ult straight away out of that fight.
Yeah, very, very nice play from him. Nice discipline from Pango, though. You saw as soon as they lost those two players, the call came, get out, get back, regroup, and they lost very little after that. And now they can come back nice and quick and take another team fight here. 2 minutes left on the clock, so time is ticking away here. But they've got some ults to work with, but they've got to be aware of that Bob, the Blizzard, and the Valk coming out of ReAce Legion.
Victus Dive jumping in from the monkey early, trying to bait out a couple of the ults. Does have his own ult, his Primal Rage, that he can use to get out. We do see the Bob going to get up, and here comes the Justice from above. Actually, it's Justice from behind as we see Bubs trying to get in there. Even manages to get out. We see now the Gravitic Flux coming out from Aku. Manages to even take out the Pharaoh in midair. With his beams there, and is now going to try for the long rock to the end. Doesn't manage to get anyone, but does manage to secure a little bit of space here for ReAce Legion. Pangolins, it's so close to the end. Don't want to give it up just yet, though. They have lost the Ana, and so just down to a single healer. No, that's it. All your healers are gone. Pangolins now regroup.
And with the point where it is, this actually favors the defenders here, spawn-wise. They can get back pretty quickly, and they've got a composition that can stall things out a little bit better than the enemy squad. But look at the ults situation here. Equal ults on both sides, but I kind of would rather have a Bob and a Graviton Surge here. The Primal Rage to buy time. They're playing quite split, so Duelist, James, might struggle to get value with this Earth Shatter, but we're going to have to wait and see if he can find a target. And they're going to start straight away here with the Primal Rage.
We see the Bob come out, we see the Earth Shadow as well from Yames, and so all the chaos finding under the bridge there. Also Primal Rage and Blizzard committed, so both teams dedicating everything that they can. Bob manages to pick up 2 kills though. It's in such a good position. Yames is under pressure now, has got the help of a Mercy, but doesn't have a shield to keep him up, and so the rest of ReAce is just going to fall now as Pangolins cleaves through, keeps pushing forward.
What is this
An optimistic res, I'll give you that, Luckies. Obviously realizing the fight was over, but trying for a cheeky place, not able to stall it out though.
I don't know what kind of cheeky play you could ever expect from a Reinhardt with like 15% ult charge and no friends. But anyways, let's look past that one. Luckies, I think, will be regretting that. A really nice fight from Pango. They're just using their ultis nice and aggressively. Sometimes we see teams kind of sit on their resources a bit, but they started things smartly there with the Primal Ratio, the Bob, and straight afterwards, and you saw how much value that Bob got in the back line. Oh, what is this shotgun, dude? He's just sitting in the background, closing his eyes and firing down the choke point.
Who needs a scope when you're going to do something like that? That's a great dynamite to follow it back up, though. Puts a lot of pressure on Bubs. Bubs is going to be able to get out, though. Still firing damage here. Supported so well by that Pocket Mercy, even being nano boosted up. And with the gain, the res on the Reinhardt. Not sure what that's going to do, but feed a lot of ult charge here to the rest of Pangolins.
I don't know how comfortable Lucky's is on this Mercy, because he's raising like a person who believes that any raise is a good raise, and that is unfortunately not the case at all here. So I think he needs to focus a little bit more on getting value raises early in the team fight if possible. Bob coming in both directions here, so gonna be a tough fight, and it's equal trade so far.
Although gets the Bob up into a huge position. Furious going to be able to come back out and hopefully be able to shut down this Bob a little bit. Gets the freeze up, but that's pretty much near the end of the fight. Does manage to secure no other casualties though for ReAce, and they've managed to stabilize finally.
Yeah, but this is good for Pango here. They've now pushed through this tough choke. They are going to push up and defend aggressively here from Reyes. This is very good to see. And they've got these 2 tank ultis, so if they can find a nice choke point to hold down Earth Shatter, Gravitic Flux, not likely to be comboed together, but either one alone in a tight choke is going to be a nightmare for Pangolins to deal with. They will be coming with the Primal Rage and very close to a Grav Rocket Barrage combo here. We haven't seen that in a long time. That was like one of the classic opening combos for Overwatch, but bad start for Pango to start things off. Oh, she justice!
I'm trying to drop that ultimate and not respecting Reyes being able to flex backwards like that. That damage coming in from Big Tuna from the background, just so important. And it looks like Reyes just not wanting to let this go, pushing all the way forward through to that wall. And the charge comes up the pin. He nearly got around it, did the Ash, but it's not managing to. So Hemisphere going to delay it out even further now. Reyes managing to stall this out, and there's only 30 seconds left.
Yeah, Babs, man, what is that rocket barrage? I think just a little bit caught, like not concentrating. Oh, Gravitic Flux, his fight's still going on here. But he didn't wait for the grab. He went for it after losing a player where he didn't know where the Ash was, and he just got mowed down. Now they don't have that barrage. But Poacher comes in with an ulti here, but they're losing so many players, they don't have much time to get back in.
And with that Bob out as well, I'm just going to be able to fortify anyone coming back in. Pangolins really taking too long. We talked about how good their discipline was in regrouping, but at the end they're just falling apart, getting picked early, and they're not resetting properly. Meant that they didn't actually have a last fight.
Yeah, it's tough when you have 30 seconds left on the clock. You probably have enough time, but if anything goes wrong after that, then you're really out of options. So sometimes you're in a position where you do have to commit with those 5 players, and that's troublesome. But again, they had options there. They lost that game with like 3 or 4 ultimates in the bag. Just losing that first player off the bat at the start of that previous team fight really set them back such a huge amount. Not comboing the Grav Dragon in the end, or sorry, the Grav Barrage. In the end, they didn't even have the 2 ultis up at the same time. But you almost got the feeling there that Babs felt like he needed to do something in that team fight. He needed to be the difference maker on behalf of his team rather than working with his team to achieve that goal. And sometimes that is what you need to do, but I feel like if they just leaned on Poachdeg a bit more to build that grab, put a bit more resources onto them, they could have comboed that nicely. And they need to be doing a better job of shutting down the Ash to make space for Babs. We saw a couple of times Big Tuna with like the world of space, just able to pew down Babs out of the sky. And if it is really just going to be press Q to die if he tries to use that barrage in that situation. But Furious and Co can be happy with that push. I think Pangas have given themselves a lot to defend here, and it's going to be up to Reyes to see whether they can bring the same kind of fire to their attacking round.
Well, they are going for a very aggressive lineup with both the Hanzo and the Ash, so a lot of pick potential for them while they've got a very stable line to walk forward as well. And we do see the Hanzo paying off dividends straight away. Hemisphere going to be the first casualty. Duelist now going to be trying to do an attack, but it is going to be going up into a lot, just ends up dying straight away. And Pangolins fell apart in that first round because they didn't time their attacks properly. You know, you had Babs going through with a barrage when there was no one else around and they were being pressured down. You know, that's the whole point of their lineup. And so far, just Reyes being able to dictate the whole timing of this. Hemisphere nearly going down again.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the much bigger issue is that they're getting picked off to start every team fight. Look at that, already Apicornicus down. Furious finds Dragon Wolf. Oh my god, dude, just popping off here. Not going to let Big Tuna take all the glory. And they're just going to clean things up. But again, they're losing players at the start of every team fight. I think if they can lock down that opening position and not get picked while poking, they are going to be able to get themselves proper team fights.
I must admit, you can't always predict Furious to be able to hit a sideways Mercy going as they got in Angel. And yet still managing to do the impossible. And there's the picks that you're talking about. Even gets the Sonic Arrow kill on the Baptiste. What is this, man?
Whoa, the triple Babs taking matters into his own hands here. Fight really not even getting underway, but the cart is still moving this whole time. So these kills are cool and all, but if you're not going to take a team fight off the back of it, it actually doesn't make any difference other than building towards Babs' ultimate. And Babs has decided he's had enough. He's out of here.
Well, that's 50% of an ultimate wasted, I must admit. But it's like you say, at this stage, Reace isn't worried about even if Babs is coming in and doing a bit of damage. They're still walking forwards. They've got a Reinhardt and a Zarya on point with the Baptiste. No one's jumping on top of them because they can't. And so it really is Big Tuna, again, having all the space, and Furious getting involved, going, hey, I want to hit some hits as well.
Yeah. Babs, by the way, I'm sure is just disconnected. I think he's notorious for having internet issues as well. So he will be back at his earliest convenience here. Like you say, losing 50% on that ultimate is a bit of a sag, especially considering he just picked up a quick triple K to get that 50%. But this is a game of positioning, a game of picks. But I'd like to see Pangolins leverage their more brawly composition here. Double hit scan on the other side. Basically, obviously, Hanzo not literally a hit scan, but he plays like one. But they can use that mate to slice the tanks off here and punch them down with aggressive play from Duelist if they can. We saw Team Gaming doing an incredible job of that, Altruism, on this map especially, against Rage Quit Odyssey last week. And that was kind of a key, using this composition that Pango are running to counter out what Rage Quit Odyssey were doing, and then looking at how Rage Quit dealt with that composition and forced them to change tact. So I'm hoping we see them turn the wick up here and really start putting some aggressive energy into this match on the side of Pangolins, and just start to try controlling the tempo without losing players before the fight even starts.
Oh, 100%. You know, that's what you're going for when you start running something like a Lucio and a Mei together. The Mei is there to dictate your position. You're saying, we're going to shut you off. We're going to isolate off your tank or two tanks. We're going to make sure that you can't get the damage from your long-range damage dealers in. But they're not getting into any position to be able to use a Mei wall. They're not being able to use the Lucio speed boost to engage at the right time because they don't have enough players, simply because they're getting picked at the beginning of each fight. And so Pangolins has to be able to play on their terms, because otherwise they need to go a completely different comp. If they're trying to run a Mei wall, you've got to be the ones in control.
Yeah, it's tough, and this is a mistake you see a lot of young teams make, young players make. You think you need to be getting value out of every second in your game, and any second you spend standing still is time wasted as time ticks down here on the pause. But I just think they started here, and they're starting off nice and aggressively, but Big Tuna is working his way around.
Be amazed the Big Tuna's positioning, managing to get these weird off angles, and you know your wall is only going to be able to do so much, or your shield at least. And now the Big Tuna crossfire starts coming in. Look at this damage from behind, comboed with a bob. That Earth Shatter just shutting down everyone, and eventually it is going to be Big Tuna picked off from behind, but the rest of Reace Legion just pushing forwards and now going to be able to clean up the Baptiste as well.
A little bit of a lack of awareness there from well, you know what it actually was? It was that they didn't have Babs when they started that fight. You saw him join late and deal with Big Tuna, and I think if he'd been in position from the start of that, he might have been able to identify where Big Tuna was and put him under pressure. But as it was, Big Tuna just got set up in the background and started shooting people in the back of the head. Nobody turned, eventually Reinhardt turned to face him, but by then it was too late. They'd already lost a couple of players and put themselves on the back foot. But Furious now has the Dragon Strike. He's dueling with Babs here. 5 HP, but the fight's starting elsewhere. Oh.
Two of them eventually. Furious looks for the one last shot and now can turn their attention back to the main fight. Does still have this Dragon Strike, but doesn't want to waste it too much. They do manage to take down the Diva mech, and so that's a lot of sustain from Pangolins going down. It would be interesting to see if Julius can get up that ult, but they're going to have to survive through the Dragon Strike. Everyone managing to flee away from the side of Pangolins, and so Pangolins can now finally use this Mei. Furious going to be the first casualty, and managing to get up that wall to be able to shut him off from his team. Pangolins look to stabilize.
Yeah, 3 minutes to defend this corner, though. That's a bit of a tough ask. I'm not sure I loved that late ult from Furious. I kind of get what he was going for. The team was kind of flexing there, backing up, and then you throw the dragons down so that you don't get followed up on. But he might have wanted to keep that for this next fight, especially he doesn't have the Diva on his team, so it's not such a... No, he does. I'm crazy. Yes, he has the grab, sorry. So they could have comboed that up nicely. Tuna, though, has worked his way up to the bob here. We do see Babs on this Doomfist, one of his more well-known heroes. He gets caught in, but Duelist through the window fires back.
Man, that's the way to do it. If you know that they're coming at you, you're going to be pushing out. And now we see also the Blizzard going to be committed, and Pangolins going to be able to dedicate everything to just center themselves in this fight. They were not losing that.
Well, they were not losing that after they got the double kill with the Fire Strike. I don't think the Blizzard and the Diva Bomb needed to be chucked in there as well. So that was a very expensive team fight. 4 ultimates used there for what, in my opinion, was already a 1 fight. So that is a bit of a reset here, but they did mill out the Graviton Surge from the other side. Furious has almost built towards his ultimate here, so it could be quite explosive, and that's a good pick. All the healing now pretty much down on the side of Pangolins.
Resources to be able to push this as well. Big Tuna making space now with the Bob. Just needs to get them to dedicate to an open position, and this might be it. Big Tuna going to be calling in Bob into the backlines. Has to fight it out with the Lucio, though, just blocking the stairs, cutting off that retreat. Still the Bob in the backline is putting in damage, but Pangolin's just going to try and avoid it. Runs forward into Rie's Legion, and Rie's just collapse upon them instantly. The wall going to be able to give a little bit of space to Pangolins. Now the Earth Shatter, that should be able to clinch out the fights. James just going to be pushing forwards now, swinging that hammer to claim their prize.
Easiest shadow of James' whole life. No tanks, all squishy heroes just lining up for him when he shatters them all down. Nice work from the Reyes Legion main tank here, as now they can push forward and to clean things up. And that was all because Apricornus got picked at the start. The fight got drawn out and they couldn't keep up the sustain to take the fight to the enemy team. Can somebody look at this guy at least? Tuna in the backline here just firing away uncontested.
No one obviously has their mics turned on. We see the Graviton Surge going to come out from Rie's Legion. They don't, unfortunately, have a Dragon Strike to come through with that. Babs trying desperately to get back to the fight. Hemisphere going to go down, though, so Babs might be rejoining. No one else with them. Does use the ultimate to try and clinch this out, but so far just putting in damage, putting in punches, and finding absolutely nothing. Cleaves through the whole team, and no one's looking at him. He's still managing to stick around, but eventually opens up the space for the Shadow. The attempt coming through. Hemisphere has also rejoined this fight. Julius has done their work, does get charged out there. The Blizzard making work, and now with the Diva Bomb stuck on top of it, could actually find a little bit of space here. We see Aku dropping very low on HP, also going to go down. Pangolin somehow going to hold this.
Wow. Both of these teams have decided the flanking DPS are not worth any attention, because Babs in the backline, they're not doing that much work. But as you say, buying some space and time for Julius to come in, get a huge shatter, which buys time for the Blizzard to come in and clean up the fight. So nice work from them. That is an interesting ulti there, eaten up by Poached Egg.
I guess they took a message from that last fight where they were like, oh, if we walk behind them, no one's going to see us.
Exactly.
Instead, it doesn't work, and this is what we expect to see instead. Pangolin's coming out very well here. Big Tuna not managing to use that blink to get out of the range of the hammer, and Pangolin's actually going to be able to hold this.
Oh, man. What? If you're Reyes, you're kicking yourself there. Had so many opportunities to win that. They've been playing super well in this fight. I think they're leaning quite heavily, as I thought they would, on Big Tuna and also Furious as well. Babs is getting player of the game here. I'm very interested to see what this was, because that little clip we saw of him, it didn't get much value. This is a fight where they lost Apricornicus right at the start, so gets the pick off here, and he's just gonna sort of move. Oh no, Hobo Parker, goodbye, friend. And of course, an environmental kill counts for like 4 kills in the player of the game algorithm, so nice work from him. But yeah, Reyes, they have stuff to work with here. I think both teams will look back at this game, no matter the result, and say, okay, we know, we can see a couple of things we need to work with. Just in general, communication and awareness can be upped a bit. We saw a couple of times that there were players on the flank for both teams just not being dealt with. Thinking, of course, of Jelly Doodle on the Ash, on the high ground behind the team. And then, of course, so I just said Jelly Doodle, didn't I? Big Tuna, sorry. And then Big Tuna also on the flank with the Tracer, and then of course Babs with the Doomfist most recently. So a little bit of communication and awareness. I think leveraging the strength of their compositions as well. I really liked what Reyes was doing. They were allowing their hit scan DPS to sit at long range and fire away and get those early picks, and then they were initiating very nicely off the back of that. And I think Pango really needs to just watch their positioning in the staging part of the team fights. When they're getting set up, just wait for your tanks to be in position before you start poking your head out. Otherwise, we can see your head's going to get taken off by these stellar DPS players from Reyes Legion. But at the end of it all, they still end up winning it out. So Pangolin is just holding on, winning team fights when they need to, and Reyes struggling to find that little bit of extra gear just to push themselves through to the win.
I think if you put a prediction bet on the Reyes Legion at the beginning of this match, you're probably kicking yourself, and for good reason. I mean, Reyes had that 100%. You had to kill Babs, who was just floating around as a random doofus. That was it. Yeah. Like, they had a lot of chances. I mean, Babs at one stage went through the whole team and then had no cooldowns. If
straight
they had
through.
turned around and looked at the giant flaming fist that went past them, they would have won that fight.
Like a ghost. He didn't hit anybody on his way through, just straight through the roster, and then came right back. And the whole time they were just like, what's going on? And then they got shattered in the face. So, unfortunate for them there. But we are moving over to Kings Row here. Yes, please, more of this map. Altruism, fun fact, we've had infinity matches in the Raving Mad Gamers Last Man Standing. I'm actually going to check the exact number now quickly. And only one of them hasn't featured Kings Row, and that was Inferno versus Aztec. So in 14 matches, we've had one instance of something that isn't Kings Row.
Oh man, like I feel like that team actually just picked something else besides Kings Row just to be the one team who does it. I must admit. I'm interested to see how Reace Legion plays this. Obviously, Kings Row are very familiar to so many teams, and Reace showing that when they play the game that they want to, I really favor their sit at long range and get the important picks with Furious on, who did a stellar job really on that Hanzo, and Big Tuna obviously on something like the Ash. Those sort of guys know what they're doing, and you can leverage them. We did say that maybe Pangolins tank lineup not going to be able to really hold back those pick opportunities. You know, just a lack of focus for half a second when you don't know exactly where your shield is, and one of your supports gets picked. I'd like to see that from Reace, and hopefully they've got some sort of game plan going into this to enable that. You can see Furious going onto the May does have that opportunity to just control that choke a little bit. So if they can leverage that, I think they can win this.
Yes, I agree completely, and I wonder if I wouldn't rather actually see Furious here back on the Hanzo and just keep playing that style. I don't think the style was the issue. I think it was some awareness and execution that let him down on Rialto. But I do love the style on this map, but I will say I'd rather they had the Lucio instead of the Mercy to really leverage that May wall and work together with the team here. I'm a bit more, but they're going to instead choose to put the emphasis on Big Tuna, who's going to put the emphasis on being the first person to die in this team fight.
Maybe that's the reason why Furious didn't take it, but the Maywall is good. The Maywall is actually great, managing to separate this off. Unfortunately, there is one for both teams, so Hemisphere going to be able to keep his team alive just as well, and now looking to put some pressure on. Pangolins wasting absolutely no time. Babs not getting the jump upright, and so instead going to be satisfied with sitting, capping the point. Big Tune is finally back, but there's no one really dodges the rocket punch coming through, but not really going to be able to recontest in any meaningful way.
And I mean, I love that from Babs, right? If that was me, 1,000,000%, I get that first pick and I'm playing Widowmaker for the rest of the round because I'm feeling myself. But Babs, he gets that first pick straight into the Doomfist, and then he moves in to help this team start to take that team fight. They've got that first cap now. They can start moving the point forward here, and they're working with Hemisphere on the May, and they've got that Lucio, so they can control these choke points a little bit better than Reace Legion can. So can Reace Legion stand up to what what Pangolins are showing? Oh, no.
With something like that, we do see the Doomfist coming straight through. The Maywall does a great job. I mean, Immortality Field trying very hard to keep up the side and is actually managing to do a lot. Re-8's going to be pushed backwards again, and it's Aku fleeing with almost no HP as the members fall around them. Again, Pangolins just using that extra bit of speed from the Lucio to be able to move on top of them exactly when they need to.
Not only extra bit of speed, but also just extra bit of initiative in their play style. They started that team fight. They knew how they wanted to play it. They were kind of poking in the choke there from Reace Legion, looking for an angle. And as soon as they step back half a foot, just fires out from Pangolins there, gets aggressive. They use that Maywall to perfection from Hemisphere to split off Yames, who has to do a 360 no-scope there to try and survive, but unfortunately gets taken down. So good teamwork here from Pangolins, where we're looking at more solo play from Reace Legion.
Should come back and recontest this, and so they still commit the Blizzard. The Fire Strike's going to pick up 2, and Pangolin's going to win this one, but it's a little too late, and I don't think Reace is going to be sad about this as long as they don't waste any ults, and which they don't.
I'd be pretty sad if I had 5.5 minutes to try and defend this last.
Oh, hang on, wait, they're on attack. Well, hang on, Pangolins just flattened that instantly. They're not wanting to give up this position at all.
Yeah, it's looking pretty dire here for Reace. They've got the Blizzard, they've got the Shadow coming to the next fight. But this is a point where I've seen Diva Altis get a ton of kills. So if Poached Egg chucks it over the top here, you never know what can happen. And this is a good wall, but the Shadow is a counter.
James coming through from the side there actually does manage to stay alive. That Baptiste Immortality Field, and though the massive Zarya bubble manages to stabilize for ReAce Legion, and they are able to push forward. The two tanks cleaving through and getting most of the kills. Oh, that's an unfortunate way to die, Julius.
Yeah, I'd like to have seen Pangolins just hold off on using any ultis there. They did throw down the window, but I think they'll be fine with losing a couple of team fights here. Just build up your ultis and then come back in. All it takes is one big pick from Babs, and with the good aggressive way Pangolins have been playing, they can probably leverage that into a team fight win. And once you put them on the back foot, and look at that wall altruism.
Oh, that's perfect. And we see the counter wall try and come from the side, but it actually just pins them into a corner and makes sure that nothing can come out. Big Shun are going to try and make something happen here with the Deadeye, but goes straight into a shield. And Aku also has the Graviton Surge, but really with the dwindling numbers of people on ReAce Legion that's still alive, Maywall actually going to help out Aku a little bit. Maybe just baits him into the open. Going to be able to stay alive and pumps out a massive amount of damage. We now see the beat coming through as well. Aku going to be caught out by that Blizzard in the corner though, as Hemisphere leads his team to victory, freezing person after person, even managing to get the pick on the Moira as they came in. And so it seems like ReAce not going to be able to get back in time to stop this.
I mean, this was alarmingly one-sided altruism. This is not reflective of what we've been seeing throughout the series. It's generally been pretty tit for tat outside of Ruins on Ilios, but this one was all Pangolins. They found a composition that works well for them, and they executed it to perfection. Honestly, the way they were playing around Hemisphere's May was really critical to the success here. I think running that Lucio and allowing the tanks to be super aggressive with that speed boost was a big part of what pushed them through this. Discipline with ult usage and aggressive play with high impetus and initiative. I really just can't say enough good things about what Pangolins were doing in that round. And now you get to see the downside of relying on some of your heavy hitters here. Big Tuna, Furious can do nothing if their Reinhardt gets sliced off the front of the team fight there. We saw a couple of times Furious with the May try to get a wall that would kind of protect him, but it's so hard when you're on the back foot like that. And Big Tuna just couldn't punch through the Reinhardt shield, which would blow up, or, before his tanks blew up. Just got exploded on the front line. So I think ReAce need to think about, like we saw with Rage Quit and Team Gaming, they need to think about how do we counter this composition? How do we stop the tanks from getting that aggressive? How do we stop the May from getting value? I don't really see this composition matching it working for them. I like instead that they've gone with the Lucio. I hope that they changed the play style they were using, and now they're the ones who try and get aggressive on attack here. But we're going to have to wait and see.
Furious looking to turn around that kill that they've suffered so badly in the first round, but not managing to get anything yet. Gets a bit of damage in. Ooh, that was nearly an opportunity. Furious still sticking with this and might have a chance now on the Doomfist. Instead, the Doomfist is wreaking damage in. ReAce is falling. Pangolins just sitting on the front line here, managing to get this. Eventually, we see Babs getting that kill onto the May, and ReAce just staggered out before that teamfight even won.
Yeah, you see what Furious did there is what I would have done. I would have stood there for way too long and just taken bot shots across the lane and got one kill and be like, guys, what happened? I did my job. But unfortunately, their Babs just a nuisance in the backline. They felt more like the front line the way he just hopped in there and got a couple of kills. But look at this aggressive play coming out of Pangolins. But yeah, game's going to start by dropping this way.
And again, ReAce just charged forwards there. There was aggression met with aggression, and I think ReAce just overextended a little bit, didn't respect Hemisphere's May. Babs even going to be able to get out here, goes in with 16 HP, manages to get up a little bit from his charge and his shields, and Hemisphere going to be there to clean it off. And again, ReAce actually just ran forward a little bit too quickly there.
But I like that idea from them. That is how I think you want to play. You want to get aggressive. You want to force Pangolins onto the back foot, but Pangolins are just on the front foot the whole time, and it's really working well for them.
ReAce, yeah, you can't be leading with your supports like that. The May was out of position, and so the Blizzard is going to get committed. That's big from ReAce Legion so far. Followed up by the Beats, going to keep the rest of ReAce alive, and now they can finally find an opportunity to get onto this point.
Yeah, finally found a window here, but they're probably already behind on time bank altruism. That's the kind of time bank they're fighting into here. But really, it's just about, you got to take each point as it comes here, each team fight as it comes in, and win them through. Babs, though, on this team, it's been such a key part on this defense of them playing super aggressive, because when his team gets aggressive with him, you can't just deal with the Doomfist, right? You got to worry about the Reinhardt, the Diva, all of them getting aggressive right on top of you. And that's meaning Babs can do the super aggressive playstyle without getting shot down for it. That's a nice wall, though, to save the team.
100% manages to allow RMG to get back a little bit, and now Big Tuna, Furious sitting on the side. They've got a big Graviton Surge. This is going to catch everyone, followed up with the Coalescence. Means everyone just going to have to stand and enjoy that beam.
Enjoy the beam from
enjoy, maybe not the right word. Okay,
from
sure,
the opposing Moira. Really nice combo play coming out of RS Legion there. That's what we want to see from them. I suppose you don't have to play as aggressively as long as you execute your alt combos well and you can build them quickly. So now they've got some momentum. They're pushing forward here. It's going to be up to Pangolins to push back. They've got the bomb and the shadow. They might throw the bomb over the top and shadow, but they're going to have to find to the Deadeye.
Or the Deadeye instead comes out. Medwell with an Immortality Field. The bomb in the back line of RS Legion, though, could cause problems. Manages to turn everyone around. And Big Tuna now sitting on the sidelines, actually being ignored, but putting in the slows, putting in the control that the team needs from RS Legion to be able to push forward. Now, poor isolated May manages to get up on over the wall, but there's enough people there from RS to chase him down. And so RS managed to take the streets phase with one good team fight.
Yeah, very nice play from them. Nice aggressive play as well. And I like the starting things off with the ultimates. Furious, he starts that fight off with the high noon. That means that kind of just shuts down the aggressive play style, because they don't have heroes that are great at getting picks on the side of Pangolins. But fight starting off here with the Blizzard.
Talking about starting the fight on your terms, they RS Legion of the ones to dedicate that Blizzard into it, managed to isolate off the couple of people who are left, and then still find the staggering picks at the end, mean that they're going to come all the way down and now have almost both their tank ultimates. They're at least going to be able to start with this Earth Shatter.
Yeah, this is a really nice play from RS Legion. Kind of just putting the screws to this Pangolin squad who's trying to deal with it. I might actually switch up the Diva here for the Zarya bubble, just to allow my Rhino a little more space to play aggressively. But that's a good start. Duelist finds a pick onto James, and now the Blizzard's going to come in as well.
And it seems like RS being the ones to now back off a little bit. They didn't want to start that fight. They do drop the Coalescence at the end there, but you know, we always said that they're winning the fights that they begin. This time Pangolins was a little bit quicker on the draw and made it work for them, spending a lot of ults though.
Yeah, and they had a bit of an ult advantage there. Now they've used all their ults. RS can just come in here with the grab, with the shadow, with the beat, and with Furious's high noon soon to follow, and just try to look to close things out here. But they're going to need to play aggressive.
Starts straight away. The nice Dragon Strike coming through the other way manages to shut down James. James has done enough work to push some space though. Pangolins managing to leverage that, and they've even picked up a Reaper now to put in more damage against this front line. RS dropped the Graviton, but didn't really get anything. Yeah,
this Reaper, an interesting call now, because they can't just play that aggro style that they were using the Mei for. To shut down the tanks, and I'm interested to see how this works out for them, because it's a different kind of aggro style now. Now you just close your eyes and shotgun down the front line as best you can. Look to build yourself up, Blossom, and get some kills. But they got some ults here, but Babs, that's a good start for Poach Dig in the squad.
Still wants to push this. They're going to have to fight into the Diva bomb. Even though Shadow over the top manages to put down the shield, and so Pangolins being able to leverage their ults again to take out RS.
James just turned his back on Duelist there. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Suddenly he was just facing the wrong way, and Duelist was like, okay, yes, please, I'll take one of those. He shatters down the whole squad, but now they are really ultimate poor here on the side of Pangolins. They did commit the grab on the side of RS Legion, but that you're going to have to see if they can get value out of the Shadow coming to this next fight.
I mean, this stage, Pangolins already going to be happy. They've had the massive time advantage going into this, and so now we see James trying desperately to make something work. Manages to get the pin, but doesn't carry it all the way back to his team. Now the rest of RS again just going to have to drop backwards as Pangolin keeps up this, and Pangolins even extending their time lead even further. Look at that.
Yeah, it's getting pretty dire here. And remember, if they cap with 0 on the clock, they cannot win. They can only draw on King's Road. We saw a draw last week here on this map. That's a nice wall, and they can get aggressive with the ultimate.
It's going to be up to Hemisphere to try something in the back line because the rest of Pangolins is being pushed so hard. Reace running forward through with this. Hemisphere nearly does have this Death Blossom if he wants to try and save it, clutch it out for the team. Doesn't manage to do it. Still keeps the payload stationary though. And so while Reace have this, they only have one fight left and they have to drop a lot of ultimates into that.
And they have to win it before overtime as well if they want to win this map. So a lot on the line here. Hemisphere does have his ulti almost comment. Not sure what Scars is trying to say here, but we'll have to wait and see if they can win this team fight out. They've switched to the Sombra here. I like this pick. I don't know if it's going to work out at this stage of the game though.
Both Death Blossoms dropping there. Big Tuna getting out a little bit more. Has to now flee from the bomb. But it is Reace Legion managing to come through. And with that Reaper still alive, going to be able to chew down any people trying to stall out this point. Again, the hack comes out. Pangolins trying desperately with some sort of strategy to make that work, but not a great stall character. And it's the poor Reinhardt trying there. The shatter from Julius was looking to turn that around, but doesn't manage to get in. Reace do actually in 10 seconds manage to clinch that out.
Yeah, very nice work from them. Still a huge time deficit here. 3 minutes and 25 seconds is the difference. But you can if you can hold this first point for any length of time, it can really look very different when we come out of the end of this. If you hold this first point for 2 minutes and you get a good attack of your own, it can be surprisingly even. So really, it is still everything to play here for Reace Legion. It's just about getting a good attack, setting yourself up here with something to defend. So a couple of ticks is a good start. But really, if you can cap this first point, anything can happen on the Streets phase.
Streets phase is the interesting thing. You know, I worry about a single minute for your attack on the first point.
Yeah.
But Pangolins, if you can get past that first point in any sort of distance, then you start to look dangerous. And I mean, 4 minutes is, with the 1 minute, like you say, getting onto Streets phase is the hard part. Getting past this first point is the hard part. Once you're there, you leverage anything out. And even for Pangolins with 4 minutes 25, it's a long time and it gives them multiple opportunities to get this first point. So you really don't want to be shut out straight away.
Exactly. You don't want to have to defend first point for more time than you start the map with. That is really a disappointing position to be in. Both teams here are going to be running something different. They're running Big Tuna on this Reaper. So they want to get aggressive. They want to punch through the tanky front line with this main Reaper. And that's what I want to see out of this team.
He's going in straight away with this, again, this wonderful Doomfist that you're talking about. Big Tuna now managing to corral the whole of Pangolins in the corner. And it is Reace actually making things work here.
Nice.
They've got the spawn advantage. They're going to be coming through. And Big Tuna with such patient play just realized I need to be there to do all the damage. We're going to get me close in and then be able to do everything with these flick shots. Baptiste flees to the higher ground. And Big Tuna still not done as the rest of Reace now going to be claiming possession of this point.
Yeah, you see, I like this from Big Tuna and from Reace because it means the tanks can do whatever they want here. Because if you don't deal with the Reaper, Reinhardt and Diva are going to just be on your front line, Reinhardt and Zarya, mowing down your tanks. And if Reaper can try and deal with that or put pressure on Babs so he can't just do whatever he wants, and yeah, he switched up here, that means they can just force their way through the tank line and get to the squishy insides of Pangolins.
So Reace have managed to do what they needed to. They've managed to cap the first point. Now, of course, it is overtime, and so they cannot afford to leave the payload for any amount of time. But they have at least given themselves some tools to work with. This Earth Shadow coming into the next fight could prove pivotal if they can get it past Julius, who has an Earth Shadow of their own. Yeah,
it's Battle of the Shadows here. It's about shield damage and Big Tuna in the back line.
Julius wasted the ult. He gets frozen up midway through the ult. Yames tries for their own ult, and Yames actually going to be the first one to fall. Now the Coalescence trying to keep the rest of Reace alive. Of course, they cannot afford to lose a single fight. Furious sitting now with the Blizzard on this point as well. Going to be able to try and push it out, but decides not to drop it in. Instead, going to leave it up to Big Tuna. Instead, the Blizzard's going to come out from Hemisphere, and it is going to be Pangolin shutting down here in the beginning of Streets phase.
Yeah, but now this is okay. It's not great for Reace. I mean, anytime you have more than 4 minutes to defend on Kings Row, you're not feeling good. Yeah, exactly. But they have capped that first point. and they have got to pass that initial choke. So if they lose this first point, so if they can force a couple of team fights out of Pangolins here on the first point, make them blow all their LTs to cap that point, they can hold them in this choke here and maybe start to grind out a couple more team fights and hopefully win. That's ReAce Legion's key to victory here with this huge time deficit. Pango is just about disciplined play. Keep this aggressive style up, but know when you've lost the team fight. Don't fall into the trap that ReAce Legion wants you to fall into, where you grind out these long, drawn-out team fights and the spawns eventually favor ReAce Legion. But that is a problem that ReAce is going to face, is that spawns actually never favor them. It's always going to be in favor of EEA Pangolins here, given where the various points are to defend. So ReAce with a tough ask here. It's going to be down to good ult usage, and it's going to be down critically to not getting picked off at the start of team fights.
That's what I was wondering. Is Pangolins has obviously got Babs back on this Widowmaker. I don't know if anyone from ReAce is going to fall for this one again.
Yeah.
But Pangolins, how long do you think that they just wait and build up? Do you wait 3 minutes, build up 6 ultimates, and then just walk at your enemy team?
No, I think you wait till you have 3 or 4 and then you go. You run the risk of losing that one teamfight ultimate to a couple of untimely picks or a good combo from your opposing team, and then all of a sudden you look really silly. So I think you kind of just build up a good couple of ultimates and then take a teamfight. Oh, this is a problem.
Well, Big Tuna's read this straight away, does manage to get a bit of damage in. Instead, it's going to be Babs going to be going in with the damage the other way. Pangolins has found the space around the corner that they need to. Now they're starting to walk forward. Yames has to be healed up by the Moira. The shield's gone down, though. Moira's got limited amount of healing, and so ReAce is going to be shut down straight away. Pangolins doesn't need 4 minutes. They don't need 2 minutes. They're already on point.
Yeah, this pick, this Pharah pick is actually so big brain, because what deals with Pharah on the other team? Literally nothing. And you saw how patient they were playing, letting Babs put in a bunch of damage, and then they get that kill onto Furious and then just close in from there.
Oh no, that is actually heartbreaking if you're ReAce Legion, just having to try and get stuck behind that wall, shuts it down. Big Tuna, having made some space though, manages to get the rest of ReAce to join the fight, going down to 5 HP, has to get some sort of healing. Please, before the Pharah finds me, manages to even take out the Pharah and get the healing back up. ReAce is stabilized just in front of the point. They did not manage to hold first point, but they're gonna have to hold it here.
3 minutes though, it's so
3
awkward.
minutes.
This big cart in the way, like being such a nuisance. You're trying to work around that. There's so many flanking opportunities here for Pangolins here, because they can just work around the point here. And look, you see over the top there, pump the damage in, and they know that this choke has to be hold. They can't flex at all here from ReAce.
It's a great wall to start it off. We do see the Reinhardt going down though, and Justice comes from above. Babs this time making work out of it, taking down both of the tanks from Pangolins. Pangolins now being able to stall this Arcane. They just have to get it over the finish line. Big Tuna comes through, has got the ultimate, decides to drop it. This could be huge. Gets eaten up by the defense matrix to a large extent, but still staying alive through this. Even manages to avoid the blizzard and staying far enough away that he's got the May now to shut this out. The Earth Shatter tries to come in there, doesn't manage to pick a lot, and Big Tuna instead gonna get chewed down. That's
gonna be it. 3-0 Pangolins, man. I'm shocked and surprised. I think they looked pretty good today, actually, Pangolins. I like the aggressive playstyle they came with. Some smart switches there from both players, but on both sides you could see a bit of sloppy play. Lots of early picks getting taken down for both teams there. A little bit of lack of awareness we saw, especially on Rialto, but a couple of times here where there was a replay in your backline and nobody was really responding. So, both teams, like I said at the beginning of this, can look back at this and say, okay, here's a couple of things we can work on coming out of this. Here's a few things we can clean up, and that we can actionable stuff we can look at and work through. I think especially for ReAce now, this is a test for them where they can say, okay, Pangolins is probably on our level, actually. We can beat this team. We just didn't execute properly today. We made a couple of mistakes that kind of let us down. So, yeah, I think both of these teams have positives and negatives coming out of this match, and I'm excited to see. They play like two teams that are quite young. So I'm excited to see as they age as a unit, what they can do going forward. But shout out to Pangolins. This is a great result for them. And it's the first time seeing them. It's good to see them put in a good show like this. And now we have a much better sense of how they fit in when compared to the other teams around them.
100%. You know, Re-Ace can look back at this. Both teams, like you say, can look back at it. Look at the guy who's in your back line. That should be pretty standard call. So maybe just wanting to polish up that communication a little bit. You've got people like Re-Ace who actually should have won Rialto. They really should have. And so the 3-0 scoreline, maybe a little bit of a untruth, not a fair reflection of what the actual contest was between these two teams. And so I definitely think both teams have things that they can work on, like you say, and have things that they did well. Pangolins was able to really utilize that aggression of them, and when they started the fight on their terms with whatever ultimates they wanted or had available, you know, they didn't waste the time. They realized, let's go, let's make this work, and then execute it afterwards. And there was a definite go call. Maybe a little bit of scrappiness in the back line when Big Tuna's playing a tracer, but the game plan was there. It was very defined, like you said. Re-Ace Legion, both teams need to cut down those picks, like you talk about. And Pangolins, when they've lost the fight, they did really well in the beginning to get back, but the drawn-out team fights that you constantly talk about is just, when you're attacking, the drawn-out team fight is the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say as well, there's something I want to say about... it's going to sound a bit inane, but I'm going to say it anyway. It almost feels like Pangolins are playing the right way, whereas Re-Ace Legion are relying a little bit more on the strength of their DPS players. Like, it's a bit of an inane thing to say. The right way to play is the play that gets you the W in the end. But if you look at the way our top teams are playing, they're running what Pangolins are running, just a little bit better, executing a little bit cleaner, a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more awareness, you know, just degrees above Pangolins, but what Pangolins are doing. And I think that is a good takeaway for Pangolins, to look at what they're doing and say, it feels like we're doing the right thing. We just need to work at executing it properly. And I think that's very exciting for Pangolins here. And that's not to say Re-Ace Legion can't make something work with the style. I think they absolutely can. And I think you do always want to find a style that works best for your players. And if they can leverage the strength of Big Tuna and Furious, that is going to help them a ton. But it's also, I feel like you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to play that brawly, team-focused style, that aggressive style, or you need to be able to have an alternative style that you can use in response as well. So yeah, going to see how these teams grow in the future.
Obviously got a lot of Overwatch left over. Guys, this is just week 3 of the Raving Mad Gamers Overwatch Last Man Standing tournament. It's brought to you, of course, by PC International. A big shout out to them for being able to make this tournament possible, of course. But there are so many weeks left that these teams have a long way to go. These teams still sitting around the middle of the table want to, of course, for Pangolins now, use this as a springboard to push further up, you know, take on some of the bigger teams, take away what they can from this. Re-Ace obviously doesn't want to drop that too far down, and so has a couple of other teams that they're going to want to just fix those little errors for, and then come back and rally against the top teams. It's going to be interesting to see how they do in the future. Sun Phoenix, final thoughts, and do you even have a play of the match? Sun Phoenix is gone.
Sorry, I'm muted. Apologies. I do have final thoughts, and I do have a play of the match. I think the play of the match for me, it is a tough one. Especially because I think the player of the match might have been Big Tuna, just because of the work he was putting in on his team. But you know me, I like to always give it to the winning team. And I think I'm actually, there were a couple of stand-up players, but I'm actually going to give it to Hemisphere here, because I think the May was so critical to them really setting the pace on Kings Row and Rialto, and figuring out the style that works for them and executing it properly. His walls have been consistently better than Furious on the other side, and he's been doing such a good job of allowing Yames and Poached Egg, or I'm not sure if it was Yames, sorry, the main tank. It was Duelist, yes, sorry. Duelist and Poached Egg to get aggressive onto Yames and his off tank, and really put the pressure on them, take them down nice and aggressively, which in turns allows guys like Babs and Co to have the space to do whatever they want in the enemy background and get that flank on. Shout out to Babs as well, obviously a strong player, a focal point for this team, and it shows. And I think he's going to be a key to this team excelling beyond the potential of all their players, because he's got a lot of potential as a player in that DPS role. So yeah, Hemisphere for me, player of the match, but I'm quite impressed with what everyone on Pangolins was doing.
Big shout out to obviously their two new tank players, Julius and Poached Egg. Julius, often we see Reinhardt's charging and being too aggressive, especially against the May. You get punished very quickly for that sort of thing. And so Julius doing a very good job to stay with the team and move up as a unit and dominate that front line. We've got good play to both teams. Pangolins coming out with a 3-0 victory. Guys, it has been a pleasure bringing you this Overwatch action. Of course, if you want to catch any more action, you can go follow the competitive Overwatch Twitter and the Raving Mad Gamers Twitter. Those socials should be around floating somewhere. You guys can follow that. Sun Phoenix, where can we follow up with you?
You can follow me on @SunPhoenix on Twitter, SunPheonyx. I tweet about all manner of things. And we have a good time there. And of course, you can find me on the Competitive Overwatch South Africa Discord channel right at the top if you want to get hold of me on Discord as well.
And guys, big shout out to our producers here tonight. We had Peach ZA and Scars bringing you this action. Scars doing the observation work while Peach ran the production. So always amazing to have them working with us. Guys, I've been Ultrism bringing you this action here. Congrats again to Pangolins taking this one. And I look forward to seeing you guys in more Overwatch action in the future. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Cheers, guys.